Good afternoon. It is Wednesday, June the 19th, a little after 5 o'clock p.m. This is meteorologist Shay Gibson with Sail Flow and Leading Edge Weather, bringing you a first initial forecast for the Summer Sailstice 2024 race. A couple things to be thinking about this week is a ridge that's going to be weakening. So the one bringing these really strong easterly winds is going to be breaking down as we get into Friday and Saturday. Also, we have an area of disturbance that the NHC has circled as giving it a 20% chance to develop as it nears the southeast coast. We'll talk about those details shortly. I don't think too much impacts are going to occur except for just some residual swell out there on the ocean and maybe some showers early in the morning, maybe lasting into the afternoon. But let me go ahead and put myself down here in the corner of the screen and go to the Cora website here. You'll find this forecast under skipper's information, offshore wind and weather. That's the tab you would go for. But otherwise, go to the home page and scroll down. You can find more information about the summer series sponsored by this one. The summer sales is sponsored by Ashley Yachts. So make sure that you come to the skippers meeting tomorrow night at the Charleston Yacht Club and Junior Room at 6:30. I'll see you there for those that want to come and join. I'll give a final forecast for it. Let's go ahead and dive right into the map here. So what we have occurring right here, right now at the moment, is this East Coast ridge. I call this the Eastern Ridge that has been along our coast pretty much every single day. It's ridge axis going right through the middle Chesapeake Bay area and extending all the way through across the Appalachians and into the Tennessee Valley. What that does is squish those isobars down to the south and bring this easterly flow right into our area all the way down into Georgia, northeastern Florida, with some moderate to strong values built in off of that, somewhere between that 1020 millibar and 1022, maybe 1026. This zone right here has been particularly strong for us in the Charleston area, and that's going to be breaking down in time. So if we go forward, we see this ridge, we see the Atlantic portion of it backing offshore at night and then sort of pushing into the shore during the day. As we get into Thursday, you see it nosing back in again. If you watch this area right here, this was all retreated out, but now it's pushing back in. What's going to happen is eventually we're going to get a central high developing over the Shenandoah Valley and over North Carolina, the Appalachians basically. And then this ridge is going to start to sink south. Meanwhile, this tropical wave that's going to be coming into the picture by tomorrow, just starting to near the coast, is going to be pushing in towards, I think, about this area right here. It's going to be coming in straight from the east and then pushing west right into, I think it's going to be probably landing somewhere along central Georgia down to northeastern Florida, is what most of the model consensus is saying right now. So if we take a look at the COD on satellite, kind of granular picture right here. I can pull this up on our Tempest product. This is the wave that's being watched. And really, it's just an open tropical wave right at this point, more of a positive tilt towards the forward, a little bit asymmetrical, leaning this particular direction. Doesn't look like it has a lot of spin to it. Maybe a little bit of a low trying to form right there, just maybe a max vorticity trying to spin up. And as it heads off in this general vicinity, west to west northwest, we're going to be watching to see if it gets any convective activities wrapped around its core. So that's what we're watching right now for the tropics. Now, one area you've got to watch for is this Gulf Stream, this zone of warm water that this is going to be heading towards. So it does have some opportunity with the upper level winds. It's already meeting an east surface flow. Some of the upper level winds spilling down from the north. So this may have some upper shear on it as it gets near the coastline. It's going to get torn apart pretty quick, I think, when it comes inland. But once it gets to this zone, this is going to be crucial as to whether or not it actually maybe blows up a little bit, maybe becomes a depression. It's very low chance for this to occur. The only reason I say a depression is because I don't think it would have enough time, nor does it have enough of the necessary juice for it atmospherically to really do anything. So I don't want to get too much in depth with that. I think this is just going to land on shore as an open tropical wave. In fact, if we look at the NAM 12, we push this out. We start tomorrow morning and push this out. The NAM 12 brings it slowly into that quadrant, the northeast Florida and into Georgia. And this is going to be Friday afternoon. So the NAM's a little bit slower on this possibility right here. It's right there with the ECMWF or the Euro bringing about the same time. So we're looking at late Friday morning, midday, and some of that rain and showers pushing up into South Carolina over to the north of it. But then once it goes inland, I think it's going to be dispelled rather quickly. And if we look at the GFS, again, nothing's really any well-defined low, but the GFS brings it in sooner in the morning, right? So it brings it to shore sometime mid to late morning versus early afternoon, according to the other 2 miles. So they're all pretty much within about a 3 or 4 hour window of bringing this thing into the coast on Friday. And what does that mean for us? Well, if we look at model for rain, one of the concerns is showers and storms, right? We don't want to be involved with squall activities right for that day. We don't have any of the really good high resolution models just yet. We'll be getting the ARW 2 kilometer. We'll also have the HRRR coming in pretty soon, but right now I'm just going to be using the NAM 3. If we go out in time, we see a majority of the rains and showers are going to be arriving a little bit earlier ahead of this thing. Overnight Thursday, start to see some of that shower, some of the shower lines and activities, convective activities, probably some surges in winds as we get into Friday morning. And as we get through Friday midday and into the afternoon, things become a little bit more scattered inland, where the inland heat meets it, and we get some blow up with thunderstorms. But offshore, I think we're just going to get a smattering of some isolated cells out there. It's really hard to say exactly what's going to occur offshore. I know we're going out to the 41004 buoy, but the it's just a smattering of isolated different cells. So I think that's going to be the call for at least the rain and the winds. Now the winds, let me go ahead and run some of the, get out of this map, go right back to the winds map. So we start the race about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Let me go ahead and pick our points here. And looks like we're going to be left with a modest easterly flow to begin with as that ridge breaks down. Remember, we talked about that. So as we get into Friday day, we have this easterly flow, this east or with some east northeast built into it as well. So by about 3 o'clock p.m., we're sitting right about here. A lot of model agreement right around 9 to 13 knots, maybe 10 to 14. I tend to think that with that system to our south over Georgia, if it's a little farther north and pushes up into more of the Georgia coast, this gradient could be accentuated. In other words, I'm thinking these models are not reading it correctly. We could be somewhere in that 13 to 17 knot range versus what it's showing right now with that easterly flow. And we could start to see more of a southeast bend to that, or a veering of the winds from east over to east southeast in time, just as it's moving ashore. So that would be the natural progression of it. So that's going to be my call for Friday afternoon at the start, is 13 to 17 with the east, maybe even east northeast over to about 110, maybe 120 degrees of wind at the start. And as we start to get through the afternoon, it may bend a little bit more as that little area, that tropical wave, open tropical wave, pushes farther into the coast and pulls that gradient around with it. Now, with that said, that's going to be the starting wind. It will be fading over time. And that's the trend, is all these models do fade. My only concern is that it gets really light overnight. If we do carry a gradient a little farther, we'd be really reliant on this ridge. Now watch how this ridge breaks down. You can see as we get into Thursday night. I want you to watch what this high does right here with this ridge axis and combining with this dome of high pressure to our west. What happens is that noses down across the Appalachians. We see the Atlantic high pressure drop south and start to widen. And what does that mean for us? Well, Friday night, that means the winds start to shift more southeast. They start to become lighter. This East Coast ridge is breaking down or widening. It's basically eroding that tighter gradient that it had before. By the time we get into Saturday morning, that ridge is really just kind of flattened out. Or highs out here. It's pushing its ridge axis into this way, and we're left with a rather light southeast or south-southeast flow in behind that tropical wave, which just becomes basically an inland trough at this point. So that's going to be the call. I think tomorrow I'll exact this a little bit more as far as what I think about what the wind speeds are going to do. But the general consensus here is that, and the models are all really grabbing onto it really well. I think they're doing a pretty good job all in agreement with Saturday morning with those winds really kind of veering. And I'll go with the higher end of these. We start at 13 to 17 and slowly fade as we get by 7 to 9 p.m. We're starting to get down to that 10 to 14 knot range. Overnight by midnight, 1 in the morning, we're starting to get down into the single digits, maybe 8 to 12, and so on and so forth. So hopefully, people will be able to get 40 miles out and back. Now, here's the big kicker. And when I say kicker, no pun intended, but the swell heights are going to be rather large. So real quick, thunderstorm activity, marginal, not even marginal, just thunderstorm activity slated for Friday. But looking at, I'm going to use Surfline for this because I like some of their model runs that they do. I'm just picking a point where I believe it's close to the 4104 mark out here. There's no buoy that you can see. But 12 a.m. Friday, where it's sitting at 9 feet 9 seconds. So that little disturbance out there, that open tropical wave, will be generating some swell. And that's going to be an east-southeast swell. And if we put in the direction of the swell, it's going to be coming in from right around 110 degrees. As we go through the day, Friday, that larger swell height starts to bleed out, right? And it follows in behind that tropical wave. and we start to see the swell heights start to calm down. So by 10, 11, 12, we start to see those calming down. By 4 p.m., we're at 6 feet 8 seconds from the same direction, a little bit more 100 degrees though. So it's starting to back a little bit. And as we get into 6 and 7 o'clock p.m., we get down to 5.8. And that means by 9, 10 o'clock, we're sitting around 5 feet. We start to drop into the 4 feet, I think even less than that. So, this model run comes from Monday, June 17th, so it's 2 days old. I don't think it's quite caught up on the latest run for this particular model. So the RTOFM model is the one or the RTOC. It's basically it's going to be shrinking. So I think it might even be lighter than this by the time we get into Friday night. Instead of it being at like 5 feet, I think we might be at about 3.5 when you get out there. So it'll be calming down. Plus, without the system, a couple of days ago, it looked like that system might be a little stronger as it came into the coast. So I think these are going to adjust and we're going to see a little bit less swell. But I just wanted to point that out for all the sailors that are really concerned about the swell heights. Let's take another look tomorrow. Hopefully things will update. But other than that, that's going to be a wrap for today. Temperatures will be in the upper 80s to low 90s for Friday. And then it'll be comfortable weather out there. We just got to watch for a few of those isolated storms, those little convective showers and some swell heights out there to begin. But hopefully that'll bleed out by the time you get out past the jetties. So until tomorrow, I'll see you all next time. Take care, and we'll be at the Yacht Club 6:30 p.m. tomorrow night. Thank you.